Good morning. Welcome to my studio. Today we're going to learn how to pull and apply a handle to a mug. And uh, yesterday I threw a mug and I have it all set up because I wanted it to be a little sturdy. I can't really apply it when it is too soft because it'll smush. This is actually a little softer than I wanted, but I threw it last night so that we would have it for today. I just dried it a little bit with the hair dryer, tried to stiffen it up for you. So it's pretty good, and I'm going to just put that aside for now. And we're going to make the handle first. Actually, let me cut the mug off first. Let me do that. All right, so I'm going to take the mug and cut it off. So I'm going to put my back on the wheel, and I'm just going to trim a little bit off of here real quick because it got a little. There we go. I'm going to fix this bottom. There we go. All right. I trimmed it down last night. So with something like that's this small, when I take the wire cutter and I put it flat against the bat, I can slice right through without worry of the wire cutter moving up. When I have a really wide piece, kind of like the bowl I threw the other day, if I get to the point where I want to cut that off, my hands are going to be further apart. So the wire cutter is actually going to raise up in the center. So no matter what I do, I can't keep it tight to the back. So you end up losing bottom on a bigger piece. So you have to kind of think about that when you're making it. But something like this, I can just slice right through, and it's going to be a nice even cut for me. All right, so we're going to put that aside over here for a little bit. And I'm going to work on the handle. Okay, so let me just clean this because I'm going to work on this back. Okay, all right, so I have a small chunk of rectangular, just a little cut off that I had. So what I like to do before I start is I like to make this tapered like a cone. So I'm going to hit it against the table. And as I hit it, I'm putting more force on the end away from my hand because I'm trying to make that skinnier. Because that's what I'm actually going to do with this is I'm going to stretch the clay. So as I turn it, I'm actually making it go in the direction that I actually want it. So it's getting skinnier as I hit it. So I'm doing that on purpose, kind of banging that end against the back so that I get kind of this like tapered kind of a shape. All right, I'm going to push you guys up a little bit. Okay. All right, so now I have a bucket of water. You always need extra clay when you're making a handle because you need to hold on to something while you're doing it. You can't just have a little tiny piece. So this is a lot more clay than I actually need for a handle. I have a bucket of water. I'm going to apply a ton of water to this. So the more water, the more the clay will stretch, okay? So I'm continually wetting this and the clay is stretching. And I kind of turn it. I try to apply like even pressure. If I add too much pressure around as I'm doing this, I'm going to make like a dent. Okay, let me do that down the bottom. And if I make a dent like that, there's no way really to fix that. You just have to cut that piece off and continue. All right, so that was a nice shape to the mug. You can kind of see it in the back there. It's a nice tall one. So I want a nice long handle for that. So I'm going to continue. And what I have my hand like this as I'm going around because I'm making this, stretching it and continually adding water for the entire time until I get it around the thickness that I want the handle to be. Okay, this isn't going to be a real long demo of making it because making a handle is pretty fast. Okay, all right, so some people leave them round like that. I like to take my thumb afterwards and make like a nice flat indentation. You see how it's kind of thick down there? I got to cut that off, okay? All right, so a nice flat indentation into the, that's going to be the outside edge of the handle. You can kind of see that, see how I have that ridge from my thumb. All right, so we'll get that nice and set up. All right, so now this is super flimsy. There is no way that I can apply this handle. Let me get another back time. So I would have to, sometimes I set them up like this. This is super flimsy. I set it up like this in the curve that I want it. And I just let that dry for a while. Most potters make their handles, wait a while, and then come back and put them on. Uh, for saving time, I made a handle last night, and that's what I was drying a little bit when you guys came on. So I'm just going to lay it down because I kind of know it's going to fall over, and I'll use that later. So what I'm doing is I'm just making it the curve that I'm kind of thinking I want my handle to be for my piece, and then I'm just going to put that aside. All right, we're going to move the bucket out of here, and I just need a little bit of split. So let me get some where to make. All right, so real quick, I'm just taking some dry stuff and adding water to it because I don't really have a lot of slip in my studio. I might have some in here. But as we know, we can recycle easily. So by the time I'm ready for that, I could probably mush that up and that'll be fine. All right, so I'm going to bring you guys up because I'm going to work in my hands now. Okay, so let's get our mug back. Maybe I'll put this on there. Perfect. Okay. All right. So we've got our mug. I have a little trimming to do at the bottom here because I don't really like how this is sticking out. That's annoying. I'm hoping to be drinking coffee out of this after break to show you the whole finished product. Okay. There we go. All right. So I'm just going to fix that up. But I made this. Look at it. Ah, it's a beauty. Okay. I have this giant mug that I use for coffee, and this one reminded me of the shape. Okay, so we're just going to set the mug aside. All right, here's the handle. Oh, here's the handle that I made yesterday. Okay, it's very similar. Now, I dried it to a point where it's still movable, it's still flexible, because as I attach it, I'm going to have to adjust how I put it on. I've got it in the curve. If I really try and open it up, I'll probably snap it because it's sturdy right now, but it's not, but it's still flexible because I know that I have to move it. Okay, now I'm going to get a needle tool, and this big lump here, I'm going to cut that off because I don't need that anymore. So this is pretty much what my handle is going to look like. I like a big loopy kind of handle. Some potters make them differently. So now I have to figure out how that's going to fit on there. All right, you see that? That's kind of a little bit big even for what I want. So I'm going to lay it back down and I'm going to cut a little bit more off. And when I cut it off, I'm going to position it in a little bit more because I want to make it a little bit smaller. But I have to think about cutting this on an angle so that it lines up against the side of the pot. If I had cut it straight, it's not going to line up the way I want. And that little flat edge down there, how I have that flattened out a little bit, I'm going to just put that right on the side. All right, so let's see how it looks again. All right, maybe a little bit shorter. I'm just going to take a little bit off the bottom and bring it down. There we go. All right, so, oh, that's a perfect one. Can't wait to have coffee out of that. Can you guys see it? Okay, all right, so now if you look at the handle, okay, it's the same as what I did before. It has that ridge in it on the outside. This is cut on the angle I want it to hit up against the side of the pot, both of those. So it's going to fit on there really, really nicely, all right? Okay, so now I have to score and slip that on. That's why I was making my slip. And look at how nicely that's coming along there, just after throwing the dry stuff in. So I'm going to look at where that's going to hit on my mug, lay it down gently, and I want to make sure that I put it on nice and straight because who wants to pick up a coffee mug that's crooked? And I'm going to just trace where my marks are that I'm going to score. All right, so now I know exactly where I'm going to put that. So I'm going to score that in both spots. And I'm going to pick up my handle and I'm going to do the same thing. Now I've got slip. Ah, that slip is like perfect. And you guys know I like a lot of slip. So I'm going to gush it on there because if I don't have enough, I'm going to get air pockets, right, in those little spots there. So both parts get a ton of slip because I really want this to bond. This is a place where you're going to pick it up. So it's really important that you get a really good bond there. Okay, so now I'm going to take my handle and push it on there. Really put some pressure, and I have my hand behind there to make sure that I don't push too hard and make a dent, right? But I'm using my thumb on the bottom. Now I'm going to take off that extra slip. Now, finish it off. I like to push this down in there so that you don't have, so it looks like the handle's kind of growing out of the side of the pot. You can leave it like that if you want. I always feel like if I push it down in there, I have a better bond, and I know that this is going to really stay when I go to pick it up, because that's the really important part about this. So I kind of take my wood tool and push it all down and work it all in all the seams, just like if I was building something, so that I get a really smooth kind of a look, as well as I know it's on there. And now I just take a sponge, because it's kind of messy looking, and we'll clean this up. I try it always. You got to be very careful with it at this point, because it's very fragile. And as I'm adding water, you know that I'm making it a little bit more fragile. So after it stiffens up later, I will probably go back and clean it up again, but I can only do so much at this point. But I want to get it as cleaned up as I can. I like to get in there and kind of be a little precise with things. I want to smooth this out a little bit so this is a bit more even. Hi, Nick. It's okay. Glad you're here. All right, so I got a little flattened out there just because I'm adding a lot of water. Okay, so a couple things. Now, afterwards, I'm going to let this dry a little bit. I'm going to clean it up again after it gets stiffer, because I don't really like how that looks. I like to really have everything really refined before I fire them. That's going to be a nice handle for that mug. You see that? See how my hand fits in there really nicely? Now, notice I did not actually pick it up by the handle. You never, ever, ever pick up a piece by the handle before it is fired for the first time. That is going to snap off. Think about it. You've got that little itty bitty thing. When it gets bone dry, it's going to be super, super fragile, and it is going to snap. So never, ever pick up a mug by its handle before it's fired. All right, so there's our little mug. You can see how nice that handle looks. I can't wait to have coffee out of it in front of you guys. And I'm going to stop the recording. Great job.